Hey, all you Arizona lovers. This is the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose.
And I'm your producer, Brittany.
And here at Finding Arizona podcast, we collect the local stories of all entrepreneurs and from around the valley. So join us at findingarizonapodcast.com, where you can hear every episode and see it as well at
YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment below who you want to see next on our show. And when you're ready to start your podcast, you found the right spot. Found House, your next podcast production company.
Now, let's get back to the show. Score big with SeatGeek. Whether it's concerts, sports, or live events, SeatGeek has you covered. Use code FindingArizona to get a fantastic $20 discount on your SeatGeek tickets. Catch your favorite live events hassle-free with extra savings. Visit SeatGeek.com and make every experience unforgettable. Welcome back, everybody, to the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose, and as always, we bring in fantastic guests every week, and today is no different. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to introduce Samantha Gutierrez, and she's coming to us as one of the founders and creators of Pickle Farm Foods. I am very excited to talk to you today, Samantha. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And one of the things I'd like to also introduce to our audience is that you're coming to us with a specialization on, vegan food and also catering. And we're going to be discussing a lot of things, not only from your origin story, but what you're doing today. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you the question that we typically ask everyone here is give us a little bit of your origin story. We were talking a little bit off air, how food can be a healer for us, but how has food kind of been this stable thing in your life and it has allowed you to grow and build this business?
I come from a really big family of artists. Musicians, painters, chefs, you name it. Everybody's got their own little skill. So
yeah,
it was always really encouraged in my family to find something artistic and like just gravitate towards it, stick with it, and keep growing. So that was always just in my head of painting and creating food and salads and pastries and all these wonderful things of just it's so much love. And that's kind of where I came from. My family is a big group of artists.
Nice. So mom and dad were like encouraging you through that kind of like lens of do something that you're passionate about, love it, feel it. And that is something incredible. So the reason why I always ask everyone, tell me a little bit of your origin stories is just, again, I always find like you are the tree and that past history are the roots. And so that once we dig those up, we can kind of see where this love and introduction into your business is coming from. And so I think it's really great that you had encouragement, because a lot of people too, it's like these days may not have that same encouragement and have to find it and have to, like, for me, this was a starting point for me was like podcasts weren't really a thing. They were just starting to become a thing. And I started in 2015. And so as it started to propel forward, I kind of realization of like, I capture stories or I talk to people, and then maybe I can do my own podcast that kind of specializes in this thing. And so that was kind of like the starting point of like, oh, wow, I have something here. And it kind of snowballed. And so some people are like that, where it's like, there is no book or there is no
they
guidance.
find their drive and then they run with it and create their own path. Definitely.
So what was the educational process like for you? What was school, or was there a school process? Was there some kind of learning thing that you had to go through to kind of help yourself through to making this business come to life?
Yeah. So, my family was wonderful when it came to supporting artistic choices. When I was growing up, my dad was a chef and my mom was a pastry chef.
Oh,
so
okay.
we, I'd like to say that it was really exciting, but it's also very sheltered, like Sunday brunches every week. Didn't know that wasn't normal. Eclairs instead of Pop-Tarts, what I mean? At the little bars or candy bars. So, all of that. My father really wasn't that supportive of me going into the food industry because he felt that it was kind of dangerous being a woman. And he had come from like 1970s, 1980s kitchens where it was a really rough place and really hard to work.
Yeah.
So, he was encouraging the aspect of find an artistic route that makes you very happy, but try to stay away from this one.
That's funny
I
though,
was
because
always cooking and I was always catering, and I went to beauty school actually. So I
oh
went to beauty school
wow.
because I was like, I need to do something. So I wanted to go to fashion design school. I wanted to go culinary school, something where I was able to just get my hands dirty in something.
Mhm.
So I kind of had a catering business on the side while I was doing hair and I was specializing in color. I worked for Paul Mitchell on stages and did color and makeup and everything for them. And I
Yeah.
did that all throughout my 20s. And but I really stayed focused on, I'm selling brownies at the salon. I'm catering my friends' birthday parties, and I'm like, I've got all these things. I created a blog with like breakfast recipes. And I was like, this
Nice.
was like in 2007 or something.
Yeah.
And, when I was 29, I was like, you know what? I need to start making choices for myself in a matter of what do I really see in my future? And I always wanted a restaurant. I always wanted one. And I had so many different ideas. So I decided, you know what? I'm not going to be able to do that successfully unless I get the training myself.
Mhm.
So I wrote a really great cover letter. I lived in Seattle at the time. I said I had 20 years experience, which I hadn't worked in a kitchen except for working with my dad.
Yeah.
And I had been working for my dad for 20 years doing caterings when I was a little kid. So I had the experience. I just hadn't been by myself. But this wonderful woman who owned a pub in Seattle gave me a chance. She gave me a job cooking. And it was a giant Irish pub. And I had 2 egg pans and it was football season. So I
Oh,
learned
wow.
very quickly.
Yes. That's
I
that's
came to
incredible.
Phoenix. Yeah. It was a lot of work. It's really hard cooking eggs.
Yeah.
You don't even think
Yeah.
about it. You think, oh, breakfast, I'm gonna go breakfast. But gosh darn, eggs have to be perfect every time they go out.
Mhm.
And
I know. I'm with you. I'm totally with you. There's a lot of things that I want to pull out there just because you gave us
yeah,
a lot
yeah,
in that history buff.
yeah.
One, where was your parents kind of like settled when you're kind of learning this first early stages and your dad telling you, no, let's try and get you away from this lifestyle? Where was that kind of taking hold?
My mom was super encouraging and she was very the same way she was when I was doing hair. If I did a great color
Yeah.
creation, she'd be like, "Oh my gosh," and she's a really fantastic artist too. And so she did the same thing with food. She was like, I was working a job in the morning to learn how to do prep, then I'd work a
Yeah.
job at night and learn how to work on the line. My dad was more on the we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see how long you can last in this environment
Yeah.
and be here for me. But, at the same time, it's still really tough. So,
Yeah.
it took me about 5.5 years of working daytime and nighttime, learning so many things to become a sous chef. And
Yeah.
that was literally half the time of the people I was working with in the resorts.
Got it.
And at that point, my dad really started to be like, okay, maybe she's gonna do
Right. Yeah.
something.
Was that California, Arizona?
No, it was here in Arizona. So yeah,
Okay.
after I
Wow.
lived in Seattle, I came back to Arizona, where my family was,
Oh.
and I started working. I worked at Cornish Pasty during the daytime, making
Okay.
soups, sauces, breads, pastries, everything from there is from scratch. And so
Nice.
I really learned on the job, very hardcore of keeping up with a very busy business and doing the prep behind the scenes.
Okay.
And then at
Got it.
night, I would go to work on the line and learn how to work on the line in that hot pressure
Yeah.
of everything. Yeah.
That's incredible
So
because again, one thing that people are starting to realize here as far as the food history is that there was a very significant starting point, or at least there was
yeah.
an evolution of
Mhm.
cooking from Arizona and like how that evolved now into this now
Yeah.
really incredible tapestry of different styles and different techniques and different
Yeah.
beauties that come and make Arizona a very particular. I mean, we've got now award-winning chefs coming out of
Oh my
here.
gosh, so many amazing chefs are here. Our food is so delicious here.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, so you're a part of that history, and that's why I asked those questions because it's like it's
Mhm.
incredible. That's like again Cornish pasty, and you have like a lot of history underneath your belt, and it's like it's so cool to see that evolution come to life, and now we're hearing it from you. So that being said, I'd also
Mhm.
love to just kind of like again, it's so incredible that your family dynamic had so much juice behind what you were trying to do, and
Yeah.
and you kind of kept with it, and I think that's so beautiful that it's like you did this other thing because you felt like you were being pressured into going
Mhm.
down a different rabbit hole, but you still had ties to it. You were still doing the baking and the catering and
Mhm.
all of the things that go along with it. Was there a moment, I guess, a conversation or some kind of pinpoint that you can kind of give us about the change where it was like, you know what? The conversation may be such and such. Where it's like, but I am going to be this. I am going to go and start my own business. What was that first lightning bolt moment of like, look, I'm forgetting all the hair and makeup and stuff. I need this in my life.
Yeah, I knew that I always wanted it, and I kind of made a plan of working my way through the kitchen to working my way to the front of the house. So I worked my way to the front of the house after I became sous chef, and I became like, food and beverage manager all the way to food and beverage director. Once I reached food and beverage director, I was like, you know what? I feel like confident in my own self without having to go do all the other stuff. I can run a business. I can run the back of house. I'm not going to be, Gordon Ramsay's not going to come to my restaurant and yell at me in the kitchen because I don't know what my manager and my staff's doing in the front. I will know how to do everything. And once I completed that, that was kind of my full circle moment of like, you know what? I don't have an excuse anymore. I don't have it. I learned the things that I said I was going to learn, and I have to start this. So 2 years ago, I did start the business plan for my bodega. Nice. And, life happened, COVID happened, real estate prices started going up. So I just kept working and kind of put it aside. Yeah. And, I got diagnosed with celiac disease. Oh. And that really impacted how I was cooking and how I was making it work as well. And, I really decided that, there's this whole other allergy world out there that is really becoming prevalent in the restaurants, and working in there, being in charge and realizing that there's so many people working in the restaurants that don't know about allergic reactions and what could really happen if you don't care about somebody's allergy request. Yeah. And they, ServSafe has a certification now for, food handling for allergies. Yeah. So I really decided this year, I'm going to start the catering business. I'm going to start redoing the bodega idea, and I'm going to find a way to make all of those things come together for our community and kind of be a starting point for hopefully other restaurants and other businesses, being cognizant of allergy and allergy related things. But it was really the celiac where I was like, I'm going to die if I don't change my habits. And this could happen to other people who don't have the support and being able to go out to eat or hang out with their friends at a restaurant or any of those things.
Yeah. I think it's really beautiful too. It's like those certain moments in your life that really kind of, what it's called today is niching down into what you're really good at. But at the same time, I think it's just like this kind of conversation with your own, brain and goals of like, hey, look, this thing happened to you. You can be the change to make positivity happen. So again, I applaud you for seeing that and having that conversation and making the pivot towards that so that others, like you said, can have the opportunity to enjoy themselves and to, seek better, food eats and things like that for themselves. Yeah. So I want to applaud you for that. But two, it's like you brought in another thing and I'm like, this is so incredible that again, it's like you started your business because you had a checklist that you're like, I learned this, I learned that, I learned that. There's nothing more for me to learn. I can go out and do these things on my own. And so that's something that people needed to hear, especially because again, we kind of, a lot of people have negativity towards the, like, I can't do it on my own. But it's like, you get to a certain point and you come to the realization of like, there's nothing left for me to do. I have I have the history behind me, the contacts, I have the network, and now I have the education. I can go out and do this and make a big impact on the world that I think that I'm good at. So it's really encouraging that, there's a way for you to start your own business through the ideas of I have goals through education and through networking and building that kind of Rolodex of people that I can, get food from, get beverages from, get all of these different things from, and I can go out and do it myself and do it better and do it the way I want it. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I can handle my vendors the way I know they need to be handled.
Exactly. And now, you bring in another level of like fortification, which I mean this. You started your business before the pandemic happened. Now, a lot of things, especially in the food industry, went down during that pandemic. And I think one of the biggest things that a lot of people what I've heard is they took the time to ask themselves this question: what do I bring to my clientele's, like the bread and butter? What is my bread and butter? And how do I perfect that so that A, I don't lose my business, and B, I can still be a part of this community and still help in my way. And so that is something that I think if you're still around, if you're still in business, that's what you did best. And that's what you had to do to stay afloat. And so encouraged by what you went through and what you are going through, that where you are right now is really cool, because you have now the fortification saying, hey, I went through this. I'm going to be okay. That was craziness upon craziness upon craziness. And I'm still here. And so you're not discouraged by difficulties through, whatever it is, through vending and through whatever other kind of mishaps that'll happen. I've been through life under the pandemic circle, so I'm going to be okay. And that is really cool. So I would love to ask really quickly is, what is the biggest thing that you learned from that? What was the question that you asked yourselves, like, to keep yourself afloat those days?
Going through the pandemic was so hard in the restaurant industry. We were without so many supplies, so many different food things, and we had to follow so many regulations. And, guest service really changed. Guests changed, the staff changed, everybody changed. And, I found myself having to transition like my management style, my cooking style, my everything style, just to kind of honestly survive in the workplace during that time. But from out of it, I really gained a new perspective of, I don't want to say survival, but, we were spoiled before in the restaurants. We were very spoiled. The food was spoiled. We were spoiled. And, learning to kind of make do and it's a new universe, and it's a new way of communicating your food with the guest. And that's really what I took from it is, kind of humbling down your meals.
Yeah, I get it.
Your menu and really keeping it very clean and simple. So that way, when the guests are now coming back to the restaurants, that they're not going to feel overwhelmed. They're going to understand that there's a different kind of service, but really just humbling everything down is what I really brought out of the pandemic in the restaurant industry.
I love that. I think that makes total sense, because you're trying to extend the life of all of the stuff that you have in the kitchen, and B, you're really trying to connect with your audience on that very direct, simplistic level of like, here's the best tasting food, garnishes, whatever it may be. It is the best tasting as it's going to be. And you're not going to get any fluff. You're not going to get any muss. It's just going to be what it is supposed to be. And that's really great, because I very much am like, I like it simple. I like it very much what it's needed to be. I've grown up that way. And so that's not something that I'm scared of. That's something that I encourage others to do, because again, if you go into this world of like, very high-minded, you're oversaturating your clientele of like what they're trying to seek through the taste. And so I think a lot of the times where you're get a little too overwhelmed and too much frequency, and it's just like, I can't figure out what you are or who you are. So love that simpleness.
I'm very clean, very like ingredient focused, holistically focused from those ingredients. You can really get yourself a very fancy / nourishing / local and seasonal wonderful meal without having to get the foam and the weird.
Well, it's like, it's also
real, and
and I think it's like, it simplifies your kitchen too. It's like, you're not having to buy the specialized equipment or anything like that.
No.
And it's like that is also encouraging, because you're, I think everyone felt like, what are we doing with all of these things? What are we doing with all of these kind of gadgets and things like that? It's like, we're not in that world again, post pandemic. It's like, we don't need all of that. We just need food, so to speak. And so again, I'm very encouraged by A, what you've been through, and B, what you're trying to do these days as well, because one of the things you brought up is the bodega. So I spent a little time on the East Coast. It's not as prevalent as it is here on the West Coast. So I would love to get your interpretation of what a bodega to you is, and what you're trying to give to the audience.
Absolutely. So a bodega to me represents a community community hub, and that everybody has access to, everybody is familiar with, and everybody feels safe at. So my bodega, called Pickles Bodega, that hopefully we'll have someday, will be all 100% local. Everything local, awesome. From artists, so soaps and anything you could possibly need or want from a bodega. I plan to have but with only locally sourced products. So it'll be like an everyday farmer's market, basically.
Yeah.
A big produce section. You can come by and pick up your supplies, your groceries. I plan on making meals like for, either, a picnic or a lunch or a family meal to come by, pick up your produce, pick up a meal for your family. It's going to be allergy safe.
Nice.
Your kids are going to be good. And not have to worry about anything that's going to be harming them or making special purchases or multiple, fast food places to find something to feed your family. The same with working professionals. Come by and pick up, a week's worth of pre-made meals. You're set thinking all of your allergies are going to be covered. You don't have to worry about going to work and the party where they all bring donuts and you don't get to eat any of it,
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
So yeah, the Bodega to me is a community center, definitely, that is just accessible to everybody who needs it and who wants it.
I love it because again, I growing up or spending a little time out there and then growing up in that environment, it's like after school, I would go straight to the first Bodega that was like right off my bus stop. And then that was about 2 blocks away from my actual house. And it was, again, it's like all the kids did the exact same thing. We would get our afternoon snack or lunch or whatever after school lunch, whatever it may be. Yeah. And that individual who is behind the counter was our kind of like second parent. It's like, it's
they knew everything about everybody, right?
Exactly. Yeah. They knew everything about you. They asked you how school went. They understood what your family dynamic was. They asked you about your life and things like that. So it's like, that is the individual who you related to on some level. And, there are people who are going, like, I know myself, I didn't always have enough money, and they'd be like, it's fine. Go ahead, grab a chip.
Yes.
It's fine. Yes. And it's like that was, again, it's like family. It's like someone that you can lean on. And in those hard times, again, you're being fed and nourished on that level. So it was one of those things that I loved. It was always a part of my life. And coming to the West Coast, it was a little bit different because, again, it's like, I don't know if it's the fact that the city is built different where it's like very spread out, but it also is just kind of like, I miss that level of personalization, family connective and tissue. So neighborhood. So it's like, we'll discuss this off air, but I have an idea similar to yours, but it's like, it's definitely something I'd love to discuss with you and kind of share that kind of passion for myself as well. But we move on to kind of now to the catering side. And I love that you are, again, you told us a little bit about your celiac disease and how that affects what you're cooking. And so how does that affect on a larger scale, cooking at a very big scale of catering and things like that, but also, what have you seen from now your new specialization of being vegan friendly and all of these things from clientele of like what they want from you? I'd love to hear that as well.
The thing that to start with is there's a big misconception about gluten-free. And it's just bad press, everything tastes like cardboard, blah blah blah. And people don't realize like a lot of Hispanic food or a lot of Asian foods are basically gluten-free and dairy-free, and you're eating that all the time. Last night I made some roasted chicken with some potatoes and vegetables. And my brother was over and I'm like, enjoy your gluten-free, dairy-free food. And he was like, oh, and I was like, literally, you're just eating potatoes and vegetables. It's, and so when you look at my menu, you can see there's nothing that's like different from getting a regular catering company. So, as long as that is understood, explained that you're not going to be getting cardboard, it's not some weird magic science stuff. It's literally just real food, rice, potatoes. You could still get bread. We have pies. I'm making a pie later today. I made some cupcakes this morning for a charity event, and you can still have all those wonderful things and gluten-free and vegan can still provide all those things.
Yeah.
And that's really the only kind of challenge starting out is, there's people that are specifically looking for somebody who does allergy-friendly food. And then there's the people that are just questioning the stuff and they want to know about it. They're interested. They're confused maybe. And, being able to just say, hey, it's just regular food.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm not adding any weird ingredients. I'm only making real food and it's going to be safe for your family to eat. It's safe for me to eat. You're not going to get sick. And that's going to be just the biggest thing is just for people understanding that it's just still real food.
Yeah,
it's nothing crazy, nothing weird. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we get it is losing that understanding of like the vegan part or the gluten-free part is education. Like we have to understand it's like there's a level of education and just kind of, and now we get into that parody of, again, understanding of like, it does taste like cardboard, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
That's the parody part. That's the part where you're trying to match something that isn't gluten-free or vegan. And that's why you get the parody that tastes like cardboard.
Yeah.
You go back and simplify it like we've been discussing, and you go back to real foods and you go back to things that won't affect you on that level. Then you get the tasty, you get the taste, and you get the flavor, and you get the good stuff. That's what it's all about. It's just
you're just using real food. That's all. Just real food. You know?
and it's credible. So again, it's like that part of being able to cater at that level. It's incredible that you, again, it's just a level of education. It's a level of, giving people that good real food that it's just like, it's easy enough to go ahead and do it at that scale. So now
once they eat it and they realize like, oh, it tastes like regular.
Yeah, exactly.
Just eating enchiladas, like nothing crazy.
I love it though, because you are someone who, again, has gone through this, incredible journey of like, from your childhood to now. I think that is something that I find beautiful, from the fact that you go from this crazy kind of oversaturation of like, you have a pastry chef and a line cook dad, and it's just like you've got all of the things that go under the sun of cooking, and that is incredible. But now you kind of you simplify it, and that's what
I do everything from my own style, my own everything, and I got a lot of like my grandma cooks Tex-Mex. She's from Texas. They're Texicans. They're and she never measured, she never anything. But I learned by just smelling with her while she cooks. Smelling, that's how she would cook, so she would smell. I put the cumin in. I know that I've made enough of the cumin and the garlic and all those things like that. And I really kind of take that approach of my grandma's style of cooking into my own cooking. Because you're building on the flavor, you're building something, together that is going to become one whole thing. And if you're just measuring stuff, then you're not really getting connected to it. You're not getting connected to that. So that's like my mom, since she's a pastry chef, she's a very like, you got to measure.
Oh, that's
everything.
Precision. Yeah. Cooking at that like that.
I hate reading instructions.
Yeah. Baking is definitely kind of like I say, chemistry. It's put too much of one thing that the whole thing goes to waste, or it goes up in flames.
But I have found a lot of fun with vegan and gluten-free baking because the thing is nature has made all of these things already. Mm-hmm. They've made the healthy fats, the avocado oils and the stuff like that. Yeah. So all those ingredients are already like made, and you just need to put them together and you find your little form, applesauce for eggs. You're not going to know you're eating applesauce instead of eggs, and it's not going to make a difference. So it's like once you step out of that and kind of like feel and smell and taste your food as you're making it, it really breaks down all of like the rules of the stiffness that comes to being a chef.
Yeah, I think that is something that we kind of need to be a little bit more understanding of like, these things have comparable connections to, again, like you said, the natural world. And there are things that are already exist that can replace what we've already made with other ingredients. So I think that's really cool. I think that is a cool comparison to kind of seek and find out. And as you're learning, you kind of see that like level of like education of like, this is equated to such and such, or a pairing of these two things, or, three things or four things, whatever it may be. But it's really cool to kind of see that dynamic of like, this equation is equal to this equation.
Yes.
And so that's really,
You think like all of our native ancestors, you know what I mean? They were making corn cakes and stuff. They were going and buying eggs and baking powder.
Exactly.
They made
I love that. I love that you brought that up because I wanted to ask you this. It's like, one part is, how do you kind of find your, I guess, intrigue into the world? And one of the things that I kind of hear from you is kind of that level of like ancestry and food, and kind of how we are simplifying our food so that we are even more connected to our ancestors, and that we're going back and kind of seeking those elements and re-putting them back into our nutrients, or our nutrition, on our everyday scale. The other aspect I'd love to kind of ask you too is, how you're educating others, and not only your employees and who you work with, but I mean, one of the things that we were discussing off air was your daughter, and just how
Yeah.
she's kind of in that creativity level now where she has
Yes.
her own space of like art and things like that, and how
Mhm.
you're educating her and showing her how creativity can be not only in baking but in her element of art.
Yeah, yeah. So, you think about our ancestors and, they cultivated their food, they morphed their food to be able to make new food. They did all of these things and they had such an appreciation, such a connection to the nourishment that they were getting from their food. And the reason that they were planting their food and making their food is because it kept them going.
Mhm.
And, what I've tried to incorporate into my home with my daughter and into the workplace is the really just the touching of the food. I love herbs and fruits and vegetables and all those wonderful things that nature's giving us. Put your hands in it, touch it, taste it, feel it, bring those crazy flavors together. You know what I mean? Eat some
Yeah.
peaches with some basil, and
Yeah.
make a salad out of it. And it's delicious, but you wouldn't normally think of going to your garden and picking a bunch of herbs and just mixing 10 herbs with a bunch of fruit.
Mhm.
You wouldn't think that that's going to be freaking amazing, but it is.
Yeah.
And so I've always kind of kept that mindset with my daughter with if I don't want to eat something, like I'm scared to eat something, I don't let her think that, you know what I mean? Like, so she's just getting blue cheese and eating it by the handfuls.
Nice.
And she's always been like that, eating just, oysters and clams and anything she can get her hands on. You don't even have to tell her what it is. You just tell her to taste it. And I'm really proud. She's going to be 9 soon. That I've held
Nice.
on that far. I'm really hoping that it doesn't go another direction
Yeah.
by the influence of, other kids as she gets older. But I'm really hoping that by getting the bodega and also having her help me with caterings like I did with my dad, will really keep her interested in that and be able to help her educate her friends
Yeah.
and move on with that, by taking crazy things in her lunchbox and letting people try it because
Yeah.
it doesn't kill you.
I think that's really cool because again, it's like when you're that kid that brings your not only I mean, you talk about kids who are first generation and second generation where that level of cooking is still um, passionate and you're
Yeah.
bringing it to school. I think that educates the entirety of the group that they're in or the
Yeah.
school that they're in because you bring your lunch and it's different from what they're eating. It's
Mhm.
going to really intrigue someone if you're
Yeah.
just affecting one of those kids, but it's going to be like, hey, what is that? Like, what are you eating? Like that kind of level I think is so imperative to
Mhm.
educating the younger group is because that curiosity is still there, whereas adults I feel
Yeah.
like we're so stable in what we're trying to eat and nutrients and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like we're so far away from the curiosity that was like now
Yes.
it's like I
It's like
think
just eating to stay alive,
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so for me, it's like I'm relearning that through my son, and he's only 3,
Yeah.
but it's like I want so badly to give him because he's in full time preschool. I want him
Yeah.
to have that, you know, that good food, the food that
Yes.
is
Yeah.
not only from my side of the family, but my wife's side of the family as
Mhm.
well. What they usually ate when they were kids or when they were, growing up because
Mhm.
it's I think she's third generation. Uh I'm second, I guess you would say,
Yeah.
because my mom grew up on the reservation, my dad grew up in Puerto Rico. So it's like they met and I guess I'm the culmination of where they
Yeah.
grew up.
You're like a multi-generation slash first generation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's really intriguing to like
Yeah.
see that from the dynamic of like, where you grew up and how you grew up. And I just want to keep encouraging people to like, again, if you have
Yeah.
something that you ate as a kid or something that you grew up around with your grandparents,
Yeah.
encourage to make that and continue that forward into
Yes.
your children's lives.
Yeah, and having your kids cook with you is everything.
Oh yeah. My God.
Everything. Just
This
yeah.
kid is a sous chef for my wife and I. He loves baking, he loves cooking,
Oh,
he loves
good. Yeah.
seeing it, he loves touching it, and I'm
Yeah.
so happy that he does that. And we instilled that very early on when he got his first stool that he could stand and kind of look and kind of be
Mhm.
intrigued by food. he was there sitting and standing and helping and doing the things that
it makes them want to eat their accomplishments, like be proud of what they did, eat it, and then want to do it again because it was so yummy.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I'm so encouraged by you and just so happy that I get to talk with you like this. And it's really great. One of the things that we kind of pivot towards is goals and future and what you're looking to get out of not only the catering side, but again, maybe there's a goal for the bodega side that you have already set in mind that our listeners can help you maybe achieve, or something that you want to encourage others to do or seek. Now's your chance to kind of give us the little story behind that, or at least tell us what it is.
Absolutely. So I had the privilege of attending at the Better Business Bureau a Elevate and Execute program course by Lucero Consulting, which is located here in Phoenix.
Yeah.
They are amazing. BTW Lucero Consulting. Check them out online. They are constantly doing classes for small businesses and giving out education. And, I got all kinds of crazy information from them that was so beneficial. I didn't learn from other business boot camps that I was doing. So through them and through the Better Business Bureau, I have applied for a Kiva loan, which is a crowdfunding loan.
Yeah.
So that should be going live in the next week. That I'm really hoping will help me. I'm going to be getting a professional, like a really good kitchen pretty soon, so I can ride out the holidays with some really amazing parties that are, gluten-free, dairy-free, dinner parties, birthday parties, anything for right now. And hopefully, with the Kiva loan and the crowdfunding, be able to get a brick and mortar by the spring is my goal.
Nice.
So, get through those holidays, do everything that I need to do right now, setting stone. I've been reaching out with so many different nonprofits, just kind of like, I got all the ideas, and I'm like, where do I go? Do I just cold call people?
Yeah.
I don't really know. There's always like big grownups doing stuff, and I'm the big grownup now. So, I've been reaching out with a lot of different people, and the Better Business Bureau has been really, really great. And I never ever would have thought of that as starting out. I just don't know. Better Business Bureau is something that I was growing up thinking that's a place that I'm going to go to get best business. But it is. And I'm so grateful right now. So I have a lot of stuff kind of coming together that I'm really hoping will really come together in this timeline, that I will be able to have the bodega by spring.
Oh, that's awesome. I really do hope. And I think that it is all possible. Like you're going to really knock this out of the park. I'm really glad that you told us, because again, I think having this as kind of like a solidification of like you say it into the world and it's going to become a thing. And I think also it's like, it's also encouraging others to like, hey, look at my history. Look at what I've been through. Look at this that I've shared with you. And now you can possibly help me. You don't have to, but you can possibly help me and help this move forward and evolve and grow. And so I think that's so beautiful. I think what I'd like to do again is like, I'd love to connect you with some people because of your idea. And just, I think you have such an incredible talent and such an incredible vibe about you. I think, no, of course, I think this is really great that in these moments, I think, I don't want to pat myself too hard on the back, but it's like when we do these episodes, I always feel like, I'm catching a lot of these incredible business owners at that, where you're at, where this pivotal time of like change. And I want so badly to be the cheerleader that says, yes, yes, yes. And I've now grown into this person that I can at least say, hey, look, we do have this. Maybe it'd be helpful to do this or this, and then connect you to the right person, or give you an opportunity to share, so that someone who is listening can definitely help you and give you that kind of helping hand. So I think that's really incredible that you said these words to us today. And it's just so incredible who you are. And I want people to help you. And I want this to become a real life thing. So thank you again for sharing a little bit of yourself, sharing a little bit of your life, sharing a little bit of your business. And I'm so happy to say that it's like you are an incredible person that we've had on the show. And I look forward to seeing you in the future, maybe having you back on for something where we have like, we've done this once before with like a couple of previous guests where we bring in a panel of great, incredible previous guests, and I would love to have you back on one of those.
Look at that. Yeah.
That'd be great. So awesome. Now we're reaching the end, and this is the point where I give you the chance to promote, let everyone know where they can find you online, your next big event, what you want people to go to, maybe an email or something like that. The floor is yours, Samantha. Go right ahead.
Picklesfarmfood.com. I have a link on there for my email, or it's picklesfarmfood@gmail.com. I also have an Instagram page, Pickles Farm Food. And on there, I have a link tree with all of my situations from every website in the entire world. You can find me. You can definitely do an order form from there as well. But yeah, check me out. Come in, message me, do whatever. Today, I'm actually delivering gluten-free and vegan cupcakes to Rise and Root Collective in Mesa, which is a community birthing center, and they're having a shoe drive for scholarships today.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're having a big sale, so I'm donating a dozen cupcakes for hopefully some kids that wouldn't be able to eat all the other delicious goodies they have there.
Yeah, definitely.
And, so that's kind of my goal. As soon as I hang up with you, I'm gonna frost these cupcakes and head on over to Mesa and drop them off. And
that's awesome.
Get some good vibes for my weekend.
Exactly. Well, Chef, I won't keep you too much longer. I really do appreciate your time and how much you've given it to us. I look forward to seeing you again in the future and hearing more from you. We do have an outro for ourselves. You can hear every episode of our podcast at findingarizonapodcast.com. We love that you guys love connecting with us. So Finding Arizona Podcast under all social media platforms. And last but not least, we always end our conversations with the kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our four-legged friends. And we will see you next time.